Welcome to the Legends in English, your place for English learning and listening practice through the life stories of great leaders. Today, we begin the inspiring journey of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Born in a humble log cabin in 1809, Lincoln's life was marked by struggle, determination, and a deep belief in justice. From his early days of self-education to becoming the leader who ended slavery and united a divided nation, his story is a lesson in courage, honesty, and perseverance. Let's explore the life of this true legend together. Abraham Lincoln, the story of a great soul. Introduction and early life. Abraham Lincoln. A name of hope. A name of courage. A name of honesty. He was not born in riches. Not born in comfort. But born in a small log cabin in the forests of Kentucky. From poverty, he rose to greatness. From struggle, he rose to strength. From pain, he rose to become a leader who changed the world. His story is not just about politics. It is about people. Not just about power. But about patience. Not just about success. But about sacrifice. He taught the world that true greatness is not in wealth, but in wisdom. Not in titles, but in truth. Not in comfort, but in character. His life is a lesson for every dreamer. A message for every struggler. A light for every generation to follow. From log cabin to dreams. On February 12, 1809, in the woods of Kentucky, a baby was born. That baby was Abraham Lincoln. His home was a log cabin, small, simple, without comfort. His family was poor. They had little food, little money, little rest. But they carried honesty. They carried hard work. They carried hope. His father, Thomas Lincoln, was a farmer. He worked with his hands, cutting wood, building cabins, growing corn. His mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, was kind and gentle. She told stories, she taught honesty, she taught respect. When Abe was only 9 years old, she died. Her death broke his heart. But before leaving, she gave him words that would guide his life. Be good, Abe. Be kind. Be honest. Later, his father married Sarah Bush Lincoln, a woman who gave Abe love and encouragement. She told him, "Read, Abe. Books will be your best friends." And he read. He read by day, he read by night. The Bible, Aesop's Fables, Robinson Crusoe, Shakespeare. Every book opened a new world for him. Abe went to school for less than a year in total. But he never stopped learning. He taught himself to read, to write, to speak. He worked hard on the farm by day, and studied by the fire at night. His hands became rough, his body strong. But his mind grew sharper, and his dreams grew higher. One day, while plowing the fields, he said to a friend, "I will study. I will prepare. And maybe, one day, my chance will come." Life was hard. Very hard. But the log cabin gave him strength. The books gave him light. And honesty gave him direction. From the forests of Kentucky to the fields of Indiana, young Abe carried a spirit that no hardship could break. He faced loss, he faced hunger, he faced loneliness. Yet he never gave up. His dreams were bigger than poverty. His hope was stronger than pain. Young man, big struggles. As Abraham grew, so grew his dreams. But life tested him. Again and again, it tested him. He worked many jobs. Farm worker, woodcutter, shopkeeper, postman, rail splitter. Each job was hard, each job was tiring. But each job taught him discipline, patience, and honesty. He wanted more. He wanted knowledge. So he borrowed books, walked miles to read them. And taught himself the law. People called him Honest Abe. Why? Because he never cheated, never lied, never broke trust. Even as a young man, he believed. If you lose wealth, you lose little. If you lose health, you lose much. But if you lose character, you lose everything. Lincoln faced failures, many failures. He lost jobs. He lost elections. He lost money in business. But he never lost hope. He stood again. He tried again. He believed again. In 1832, he stood for the Illinois state legislature. He lost. In 1833, he opened a business. It failed. In 1835, the woman he loved, Anne Rutledge, died. His heart broke into pieces. Yet through tears, through failures, through loneliness, he whispered to himself, I will rise. I must rise. For life is not about falling, it is about rising. Step by step, he grew stronger. Step by step, he became wiser. Step by step, the young man was turning into a leader. By 1837, Abraham moved to Springfield, Illinois, carrying only clothes, books, and endless determination. He became a lawyer, not by privilege, but by persistence. In every courtroom, his honesty shone brighter than arguments. People trusted him. They respected him. The poor saw a friend. The weak saw a protector. Political journey begins. In 1834, Abraham Lincoln was elected to the Illinois state legislature. For the first time, people saw his true gift. The power of words. The power of truth. The power of honesty. He was not rich. He had no powerful family, no strong background. All he had was character. All he had was courage. All he had was belief in justice. At night, he studied law. By day, he served the people. Soon, he became a lawyer. But Lincoln was not just a lawyer. He was a lawyer for the poor, for the weak, for the voiceless. If a client was wrong, he would not fight the case. He said, my honor is more important than money. His speeches were simple, yet powerful. When he spoke, people listened. When he argued, people believed. His words carried the strength of truth. In 1846, he entered the U.S. Congress. He stood against slavery. He stood for freedom. He stood for humanity. But the path was not smooth. He faced opposition. He faced insults. He faced defeats. Yet every defeat became his teacher. Every insult became his fuel. Every challenge became his stepping stone. Lincoln once said, I walk slowly, but I never walk backward. And slowly, step by step. This tall, simple man from a log cabin was walking toward history, slavery and freedom. America was divided. North and South stood on different grounds. The North believed in freedom. The South defended slavery. In this storm, Abraham Lincoln raised his voice. A clear voice. A brave voice. A voice for humanity. He said, if slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong. In 1858, he faced Stephen Douglas in the great debates. Crowds gathered. People listened. The nation watched. Douglas argued that states should decide about slavery. Lincoln argued that slavery was a moral wrong. That no man had the right to own another man. His words were sharp, yet simple. His logic was strong, yet human. He said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. The debates made Lincoln a national figure. He lost the Senate race. But he won the hearts of millions. The poor saw him as their voice. The slaves saw him as their hope. The future saw him as their leader. From the log cabin to the courtroom. From small speeches to national debates. Lincoln was preparing for his greatest battle. The battle to free a nation's soul. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president. The news shook the South. One by one, Southern states left the Union. They formed their own nation, protecting slavery. The United States was broken. The Civil War had begun. Lincoln stood in the middle of chaos. He faced anger, he faced hatred, he faced fear. But he never wavered. He said, "We must not be enemies." He believed freedom was the future. He believed unity was the only path. With patience, with courage, with unshaken faith, Lincoln prepared to lead America through its hardest trial in history. The debates gave Lincoln a new identity. He was no longer just a lawyer from Illinois. He was a national leader. A voice for freedom. A symbol of honesty. In 1860, the Republican Party chose him as their candidate for president. People were surprised. He was not rich. He was not powerful. But he was trusted. Lincoln's campaign was simple, but strong. He spoke about unity. He spoke about freedom. He spoke about the future of America. Across towns and villages, people whispered, "This man is different. This man is honest. This man can lead us." The election was tough. The nation was divided. But on November 6, 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States. From the log cabin of Kentucky to the White House of Washington. What a journey it was. But his victory also lit the fire of war. The Southern states were angry. They wanted slavery. They wanted separation. They wanted their own nation. The Union was breaking. America stood on the edge of destruction. And in that dark hour, Lincoln whispered to himself, "I may not be the most powerful. I may not be the most experienced. But I will give all I have to save this Union." The stage was set. The Civil War was coming. And Abraham Lincoln was ready to lead a nation in flames. The year was 1861. Lincoln had just taken office. But before he could even settle in the White House, America was on fire. 7 Southern states left the Union. They formed their own nation, the Confederacy. They wanted slavery. They wanted separation. Lincoln stood firm. He said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. We shall remain one nation, under God, indivisible." And so began the Civil War. A war not just of armies, but of ideas. Not just of land, but of freedom. The war was long. The war was bloody. The war was painful. Thousands died on the battlefield. Families were torn apart. The nation bled. Lincoln carried this weight on his shoulders. Every letter from a mother who lost her son. Every cry of a widow. Every grave dug in silence. All of it reached his heart. Yet he did not break. He did not surrender. He did not lose faith. He said, "We shall nobly save, or meanly lose, the last best hope of earth." Through the smoke of cannons. Through the tears of widows. Through the blood of soldiers. Lincoln saw one vision. A free and united America. Freedom for the slaves. The Civil War was not only about land. It was about people. It was about freedom. Lincoln knew America could not survive half slave and half free. One nation could not live with two hearts. On January 1, 1863, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation. With one stroke of the pen, slaves in the Confederate States were declared free. Freedom had a voice. Freedom had a law. Freedom had a protector. For the first time, the war was not just about union. It was about liberty. Some cheered Lincoln as a hero. Some cursed him as a destroyer. But Lincoln stood calm. His eyes fixed on justice. He said, "In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free, honorable alike in what we give, and what we preserve." Across the land, the news spread. In fields, slaves dropped their tools. In cabins, mothers wept with joy. In prayers, fathers thanked God. The road ahead was still hard. The war was still raging. But hope had entered the hearts of millions. Lincoln had lit the lamp of freedom. And once lit, that lamp could never be put out. The proclamation changed more than law, it changed hearts. It gave courage to the enslaved to dream, to resist, to hope. It gave purpose to the Union soldiers, fighting not just for land, but for justice. It angered the enemies of freedom, yet strengthened those who believed in right. Lincoln knew the path would be long, and full of sacrifice. Many lives would be lost, many tears would fall. But he believed in the promise of a nation where liberty was real, not just written. One man's courage had sparked a fire that would burn across generations, bright and unyielding. The year was 1863. The Civil War had already taken thousands of lives. One of the bloodiest battles was fought at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The ground was soaked with sacrifice. On November 19, 1863, Abraham Lincoln came to honor the fallen soldiers. He spoke for only 2 minutes. Just 272 words. Yet those words became immortal. He said, "Fourscore and 7 years ago our fathers brought forth on this continent, a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal." He reminded America that the war was not only about the Union. It was about equality. About freedom. About democracy itself. He declared that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Simple words. Short words. But powerful words. The crowd was silent. Some did not even realize history had just been made. But over time, the Gettysburg Address became one of the greatest speeches in human history. It proved that Lincoln's strength was not in wealth, not in armies, but in truth, in vision, in the power of words. With words, he healed. With words, he inspired. With words, he led a broken nation toward hope, second term, and the dream of peace. By 1864, the Civil War was nearing its end. The Union armies were pushing forward. The Confederacy was growing weak. But the price of victory was heavy. So many lives lost. So many families broken. So many dreams buried. In this dark time, the nation again turned to Lincoln. And once more, the people chose him. In 1864, he was re-elected president. In his second inaugural address, Lincoln spoke not of anger, not of revenge, but of forgiveness. He said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in. To bind up the nation's wounds. To care for him who shall have borne the battle. And for his widow and his orphan. To do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations." These were not just words of a politician. These were words of a healer. Words of a father. Words of a man who dreamed of peace. By April 1865, the war was almost over. The Union had triumphed. Freedom had won. The United States would remain one nation. Lincoln's heart was full of hope. He looked toward rebuilding. Toward reconciliation. Toward a future where North and South would again be brothers. The dream of peace was close. But fate had written another story. Lincoln's assassination. The war was over. The Union had survived. Freedom had triumphed. Lincoln's dream of peace was beginning to take shape. But tragedy struck. On April 14, 1865, Abraham Lincoln went to Ford's Theater in Washington. He came to watch a play, to relax after years of burden. A man named John Wilkes Booth entered silently. He shot the president in the back of the head. Lincoln was gravely wounded. He was carried across the street to Peterson House. The nation waited in horror. The next morning, April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln died. The country wept. Flags flew at half-mast. People mourned deeply. The poor and the rich, the North and the South, all felt the loss. Yet even in death, Lincoln's message lived on. Freedom, honesty, courage, patience, these were his legacy. Even the darkest night could not erase the light he had given to the world. He had shown that one man, with honesty and courage, could change the destiny of a nation. The news spread like wildfire across the nation. People cried in streets, in homes, in fields. Church bells tolled. Leaders paused. Soldiers wept. Children asked why their hero was gone. Lincoln's life had ended, but his spirit lived. Speeches remembered him. Books honored him. Monuments would rise. His vision of a united, free America inspired generations. He had faced hatred, war, and sorrow, yet never gave up. Even in death, he taught the world that courage is stronger than fear. That truth is stronger than lies. And that one honest man can shine a light no darkness can ever hide. Lessons, and inspiration. Abraham Lincoln left the world, but his spirit stayed. He left no riches. He left no palaces. He left no treasures. But he left something far greater. Freedom for millions. Unity for a divided nation. Hope for the oppressed. A model of honesty, patience, and courage. Lessons from Lincoln's life. 1. Honesty builds trust. From his early days as a shopkeeper to his presidency, Lincoln showed that honesty always matters. The story of Honest Abe returning extra pennies teaches us. Even small acts of honesty create respect. Even small acts of honesty build greatness. 2. Persistence through failure. He lost elections again and again. He failed in business. He faced personal heartbreak. Yet he never gave up. He said, "My great concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with your failure." Every failure became a lesson. Every defeat made him stronger. This teaches us, persistence is power. Failure is not the end, it is a stepping stone. 3. Kindness and empathy. Lincoln cared for soldiers. He wrote letters to grieving families. He comforted the broken and supported the weak. He walked among ordinary people to understand their lives. Greatness begins with kindness. Greatness grows through empathy. 4. The power of words. The Gettysburg Address shows how simple words can inspire millions. Words can heal, unite, and lead. Leaders use words to build, not destroy. Even today, Lincoln's words guide humanity. 5. Courage in the face of adversity. From a poor log cabin to the White House, Lincoln faced enormous challenges. Civil War, slavery, personal losses, he faced them all. Yet he stood firm, patient, and courageous. Courage is not the absence of fear, but acting despite fear. Inspirational incidents. Helping a friend. As a boy, Lincoln ran to help a friend carry a heavy load. He did not think, "Why should I help?" He just helped. Small acts of kindness define true greatness. Returning extra change. As a storekeeper, he walked miles to return a few pennies. People laughed. People mocked. Yet honesty remained his strength. Leading during Civil War, even while soldiers died and families mourned, Lincoln never gave up. He worked late, comforted the grieving, and led the nation with integrity. What others said about Lincoln. Mark Twain called him, "the greatest American of all time." Winston Churchill admired his courage and leadership in a divided nation. People across the world see him as a symbol of freedom and moral leadership. Legacy for future generations. Lincoln's life teaches us Dreams can rise from humble beginnings. Honesty and courage outweigh wealth and power. Failure is temporary, but persistence is permanent. Kindness and empathy create lasting impact. From the log cabin in Kentucky to the White House in Washington. From the struggles of childhood to the burdens of presidency. Abraham Lincoln showed the world what a great soul can achieve. Even today, students, leaders, and ordinary people learn from him. His life reminds us. You do not need wealth to be great. You do not need fame to be remembered. You do not need armies to make a difference. Greatness comes from honesty, courage, care, and never giving up. Greatness comes from dreams, from values, from a heart that believes in truth and justice. And so, the boy from a log cabin became a symbol of freedom. The young man who faced failures became a leader of a nation. The humble soul who walked with people became immortal in history. Abraham Lincoln's life is a lesson for all. Stand for truth. Fight for justice. Lead with kindness. Never give up. Dream big. Work hard. Care deeply. History remembers him. The world respects him. And we, today, are inspired by him. Thank you for watching this inspiring journey of Abraham Lincoln on the Legends in English. His life reminds us that no matter how difficult the beginning, with honesty, courage, and determination, we can achieve greatness. Lincoln's leadership ended slavery and kept the nation united, making him a true symbol of freedom and justice. For you, this is not just history, it is also English learning and listening practice, so that you grow in both knowledge and language. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep moving forward. See you in the next story of another great legend.